super sweet guest appearance here on the channel. Super sweet topic. I'm super pumped. Let's get it. What's up, guys? MtgJedi here, joined by one of my favorite content creators in the game, Mr. Nub Raids himself. How you doing, man? What's up with you? Great to have you on the channel today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. You can hear me okay? Are we good?
Yeah, everything sounds good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm looking forward to talking about one of my favorite parts of the game with you, which is Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
can I ask you actually, what do you
Sure.
think your viewers or like your viewers in the comments below, let us know as well. Like, how do people, do you think, generally feel about Hydra now after the nerf? Like, have you noticed the
I
tone
have
of the
definitely noticed a lot more people asking me Hydra questions, getting
okay.
Hydra takeovers,
Hmm.
in general, just like trying out the content. It seems like the nerfs did a good job at like getting people back into the content. What about
Yeah.
you? Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, pretty similar to like I think I did a poll on my channel a while ago, seeing like where people were, and I think like a lot of people now are actually doing normal, even hard. So
Hmm.
there's pretty good pickup. Like brutal nightmare is still kind of out there,
Yeah.
but normal hard, definitely a lot of people getting into it, which is great to see. Um, yeah, because it's super fun, and I guess it ties in well. Like there's a bunch of cool champions you can have fun with,
Right.
even if they're underrated.
Right. I think that's
Segue.
the coolest part about Hydra to me is like these weird champions, these champions who've just been sitting around on our accounts, maybe even unleveled in the vault. Now all of a sudden they have a very cool purpose, and I'm really excited to talk about that today. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to do Banner Lords and Skinwalkers for part 1 here on my channel, and then we're going to hop over and do Orcs through Shadowkin on your channel.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm excited. You said you have some spicy picks.
Yeah,
So,
I think so. I think so.
okay, so for Banner Lords, we have just like a lot of different options here in this faction.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of great champions. There's a lot of champions I've never tried that I would love to try. But is there anybody you want to start us off here? Anybody who stands out to you as somebody like really amazing in Hydra?
For really amazing, there's definitely a few that are really amazing.
Hmm.
I would say Lord Champfort probably stands out as being especially good. He can be a mischief tank with his passive, giving him a shield. He
Mm,
provides you. It's the small version of decreased speed, but I mean, any version of decreased speed is still pretty helpful.
right.
Decreased defense A1, and then he's got the AoE with decreased accuracy and decreased attack on a short enough
Yeah.
cooldown, 3 turns. So he brings a pretty good kit, and he's easy enough to build. Like even if your resistance is a bit low, seeing as he's
Right.
bringing decreased accuracy, yeah, you get away with it a bit.
Yeah, it's
So I think
unfortunate
he's really
his
good.
unfortunate his aura is dungeons.
Yeah,
That would have
yeah.
been really helpful to have that aura as a possibility for your team. I never hear anybody talk about him for Hydra. That's an excellent choice there, my dude. Um I would say there's a lot of champions that I would like to try. I know she's
Mhm.
like a void legendary, but I actually think Raglan could be really good. And she's on my list of champions to try. Um
Yeah.
I have you ever tried her in Hydra before?
So I literally got a video out earlier today where I tried her for the first
Oh
time.
my goodness.
Uh, so there you go. Yeah, no,
That
and
was
she is
good
really good.
timing.
Yeah, the one thing to watch out with her, which I didn't notice until it was too late, and I'd done the thing, and I said, oh, you know what, we did the key, let's just do it.
Yeah.
But her heal scales off of attack, which is
Right.
really unusual.
It is.
So I put her into a team with like a lot of really tanky champions. We didn't have increased attack, and then
Okay.
her heal wasn't that good because they
Oh.
had so much health and all the rest. I think she'd be really good, like really exceptional, in a team with squishier damage dealers. So something like a Mashald, and you're
Yeah.
putting them in with something with increased attack, like a Brogni or Mithrala,
Yeah.
where like they are gonna die sometimes, and then she comes in with like the most ridiculous single target revive in the game, and her heal's going to be
Yeah.
boosted by the increased attack from someone like a Brogni or something. And yeah, I think that's where she's going to be. She's actually got really, really good potential. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like her a lot.
I like the full turn meter revive.
Yeah.
Like I know, like if you have Raglan, you're probably not hitting normal Hydra, but like
Hmm.
I love Little Miss Annie for Hydra.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah, she'd
so
be so good with her.
yeah, like she can just pop those heads on normal. And
Mm.
so with that like really consistent 2-turn revive and the full turn meter, Annie's gonna go and then go again. And then I have her in relentless gear, so I'm really excited to try that interaction this cycle on normal. But I think one of the more undervalued abilities in Hydra is the cleanse. And
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with all of the poisons, it's really, really helpful to follow that up with a cleanse. Some people just try to, block the debuffs or
Mm.
have tanky enough champions that it doesn't matter. But personally, I like the cleansers a lot in my Hydra teams, and I usually try to find a spot. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about her. Who else you got in Bannerlords?
So for my underrated pick, she's known as a good champion for Hydra, but I think nonetheless people still underlook her. That's Ursula the Mourner,
Mm-hmm.
Void Epic champion. She is actually insanely good. Someone actually posted a team on my Discord channel a couple of days ago, and they one keyed Nightmare with Ursula the Mourner in the team. It's
What?
like the cornerstone of the support. So I was like, wow, that's incredibly impressive. But yeah, she's really underrated. Like if you think about it, she's bringing AoE decrease attack, which really helps at Head of Wrath. Then she
Right?
brings you the best AoE revive in the game, although it is a long cooldown. That
Yeah.
also gives you the increased defense and strength, and like decrease attack, increase defense, strength. And it's so much survivability for your team, and she
Mm-hmm.
brings the increased attack for you as well to enable some of those damage dealers, which is very helpful. So yeah, she's just a great champ. She's really, really strong. I think in some ways she's better than Arbiter. Arbiter's heal doesn't often end up being that useful. So
Mm.
Ursula, she doesn't bring you the turn meter stuff that Arbiter does, but she gives your team actually a lot more survivability due to the damage mitigation that she has.
Yeah.
And that's often for Hydra. It's often actually a worthwhile trade, I found in some runs.
Yeah.
So
I've
yeah.
seen you mention her before, and I know that
Mm,
other people do use her, but I would 100% agree she is very underrated. Like even when I go to think about Hydra teams, I don't know that I've ever actually tried her just because in my head
yeah.
she's not as good as Arbiter. I use Arbiter all
Mm,
the time in my Hydra team. So I'm
yep.
definitely gonna have to try that out. What do you think about Stag Knight? Do you think that he's underrated, or do you think people know
Mm.
how good he is in Hydra?
That's a good question. I guess he's maybe a little bit underrated. Yeah, he's probably a bit underrated.
Okay,
But
well,
he,
I'm gonna go with that for my next pick then, because I've used him quite a bit.
mm,
I mean, it's everybody knows about Stag Knight, but it's just a matter of changing your perspective for using these champions in new content, right? So
yeah.
obviously he has the decreased defense and decreased attack, which is incredible for Hydra. I have found his passive to be useful as well because you can
Yep.
get away with incredibly low accuracy on your champions if you have this increased accuracy buff, especially for normal and hard. But I think the
Mm,
most underrated part about his kit for Hydra is that A1. It has really good multipliers, but that decreased speed is so clutch, especially when you're trying to, with the old teams before you could provoke the head of
yeah,
decay. That's the right one, right?
yeah, yeah.
Before you could provoke him, switching the turn order of those heads with that single target decreased speed was so good. And I
Hmm.
think that a lot of people could get tons of value out of him in there.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, and he's a champion a lot of people will have built up anyway because
Correct.
he's
Yeah.
just so versatile.
Right. You're
Yeah,
gonna have him
super
if
good.
you have him on your account. You're gonna have him built.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else you want to mention in Bannerlords?
um, I think there's other champions that are obviously good as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one spicy champion that I do have on my account, and I'm gonna try at some point
Okay.
for the lols. is Baron. I don't have very high hopes here, but I'm just curious with Baron and his
Let me
Sky
know,
Piercer.
because I recently did
Yeah.
just get him as well.
Oh yeah.
I did.
Nice.
So, I don't know if you can. It depends
Yeah.
on how much you can proc his Sky Piercer, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I just curious, like maybe with like a counter attack or ally attack
Yeah.
team, maybe I've got really low expectations, but you
Okay.
never know. Like he might end up
I
being
mean,
kind of
if
funny.
you set it up right, like he
Yeah.
ignores everything and deals 100% damage, you're just gonna like chop a head off. Like, that could be a really, really fun pick. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to High Elves then.
Mhm.
Um, for High Elves, I'm gonna need to think for a second. So, do you have somebody in mind for High Elves?
Sure. Well, my underrated pick for High Elves, I think she's super underrated, just in general,
Mhm.
but especially for Hydra, is Yannicka.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so Yannicka, you get her from the clan shop, so
Yeah.
every single person can get her, and it's actually quite easy to get enough coins to get her every week.
Yeah,
You can
sounds
get her
good.
pretty early on in the game. And she comes in to Hydra, and number one, she's got a really hard hitting single target attack, baffling speed, gives her an extra turn and perfect veil. And then her A1 becomes an AoE attack that places Leech when she's under veil. So, and she's got a nice attack aura at all battles as well. So she can sit really well in the front of your team and just pump out damage. She does a lot of damage. And especially for normal and hard Hydra now, where direct damage is your go-to. Like a good Yannicka is going to completely crush a Royal Guard, for example.
On
In
normal for
normal,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Even on hard, I think like she will pump
Hmm.
out a heck of a lot of damage. The only downside is she will outrun increased attack because of her extra turn thing.
Oh,
And you
sure.
do need to be a little bit careful in terms of the veil stuff and the buffs that she doesn't start being targeted by mischief, because you'll
Nice.
just steal all their turn meter over and over.
Yeah.
But when you get her working, it's like boom, there you go. It's pretty much the best free to play nuker that you can get for Hydra. She just keeps pumping out that AoE damage, just A1s over and over and over. Yeah, she's really, really strong.
Yeah, great choice there. That is not one that I would have really thought.
Mm.
Um, I think I'm just gonna call out Deliana here as underrated.
Yeah.
I just think, the more and more we use her in different situations, the more we see what a solid champion she is. I don't think that she's like an S tier crazy champion, but I think that she's good. Like, she has good multipliers. Her kit is good. I just think she's very useful, and I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves. Like, especially
Mm.
with the A1 AoE. I think any champion that you have that has the A1 AoE and you're putting War Master on them, like that damage really stacks up and is really helpful. And the leech is obviously going to help keep you alive. Decrease resistance, I don't know. I have not found that to be very useful anywhere in the game.
Mm.
Do you think that that part of her kit is going to be useful at all?
I think it could maybe be useful if you're bringing in something like Husks or Royal Guard and you don't have enough accuracy on them. But
Okay.
I think for normal hard Hydra, the accuracy requirements are really low
Yeah.
relative to everything else. So I don't think it's that good for it. So you could just turn it off. Like in the teams I've run her with, I've just turned it off for now because
Okay.
my champions do have enough. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's a good suggestion. And then we have the block buffs as well. I mean,
Hmm.
we can't say enough about that ability. And then to combo that with, some healing and some turn meter fill, that's a really great combination. I think block buffs
Mhm.
is one of those abilities you probably want in the majority of your teams. It's just that useful, especially if you get those heads swapping places all the time, etc., etc. Okay, so what do you think? Any other champions you want to call out from High Elves?
Uh no, I don't think so. I think that's covered most of them. There's not that many high elves, to be
Yeah, I
fair.
agree. I agree. We could definitely use some love for the High Elves. Okay,
Yeah.
up next is going to be Sacred Order, and man, I have a couple picks here that I really really love. So I want to start off by saying Cupidus is super
Yeah.
underrated for Hydra. I mean, I have Cupidus and Venus, and I love using them together. But now that Cupidus is going to get a buff, I cannot wait to test him out. I think that the Venus Cupidus combo is going to be really excellent for hard Hydra, and it would be just an easy one key for normal. With the AoE A1, now we're going to get an AoE HP burn as well. And as far as I know, his A3 is not changing. Did you see that?
I think it's unchanged. Yeah.
Yeah, but his A3 hits incredibly hard. Like, I think I've seen like 600k on some of my hits. So,
Nice.
it deals real good damage, and then he's gonna do this always counter attacking. So, man, I'm super pumped about the Cupidus buff. If you have not tried him, you should definitely try him. He's gonna do really good damage for you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing some test runs with
Are
him.
you?
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, who do you have over here for your Sacred Order underrated picks?
So my underrated pick again is like a really, really insane champion, but I think
Okay.
people underestimate him in Hydra, and that's Cardial.
Ooh,
So
yes.
so I was actually guilty of underestimating him myself, and I did a video. It was with Kantra,
Okay.
and in that Kantra team, we were using Cardial as like the healer. And I was kind of thinking like, okay, like he's doing good stuff, but I felt like you could bring in any other healer and it would work just fine. But then I was talking to the person I did the takeover with,
Uh-huh.
and she was saying that actually she tried some other champions and none of them were doing as good as Cardio. And I've heard a lot of other people using him as well in Hydra and having really good success. It's just one of those surprising things where the ally attack
Yeah.
simply and his extra attacks that he randomly procs with his A1 where he randomly joins in, like it just adds up to a lot of damage over time.
Yeah.
And the consistent amount of healing that he puts out is just really good as well. Like
Yeah.
funny enough, in the counter run that I did, I don't think I ever used his A2. Or I used it like one time and that was it. But
Really?
yeah, which was kind of crazy. But he just weirdly enough, he just works out as being super good. So I've seen a lot of people starting to use him more and more in Hydra just because he puts out so much healing
Yeah.
and he gives your team if your team doesn't die and he's got a chance to save them revive on death, but if they're not going to die, he's going to add way more damage than something like a Duchess or a Sifi would, right? He
Right.
just
Right.
with the ally attack. So
He's
yeah,
definitely one of my most wanted champs for sure. I bet he'd
yeah,
be amazing. Well, I don't know. I think probably most people know about Godseeker and Neri, but I don't think that a lot of people realize how good Archbishop Pinthroy is.
yes,
This dude was he a guaranteed or like
Mhm.
he was a guaranteed?
Yeah, from Ancients. I think
Yeah.
he was the first one I think I ever managed to do was him
I
actually for the
think so
guarantees.
too. I think so
Yeah.
too. But man, I've been super impressed with this guy. He
Mhm.
has increased accuracy. The heal reduction is not really that important, but the block buffs. So another block buffs champion, but he brings in the heal and increased defense, and then you can also get a shield in there as well on the 4-turn cooldown. And I
Mhm.
actually really love his A1 also, is going to transfer debuffs from him to the Hydra and has a chance to steal a random buff from the target as well. So if you have whatever buffs from the different heads that they're putting up, he has a chance to steal them, and that's really good in helping you keep the Hydra under control. And then he's going to
Mhm.
put that block buffs in there. So I've paired him with like a Stag Knight, right? Because Stag Knight
Yeah,
has that
yeah.
decreased defense, decreased attack, and then you want the block buffs in there, so they make a really good pair together as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, his heal is like so much better than you kind of think at first glance. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so good for keeping your team up. It's
It
really,
is.
really
It
strong.
is. Like I've run teams with him where if you have decreased attack, you can almost just run him like Stag
Yeah.
Knight and him, and that's enough to
Yeah.
keep your team alive. So yeah, great guy here with Pinthroy for sure. Well, anybody else you want to mention from Sacred Order?
I mean, there's so many champions here that are good.
Yeah.
I guess I'll give a one more shout out, I guess, to Bivold of the Thorn. He was one of the recent fragment collector champs.
Yeah.
He's actually exceptional for Hydra. It was kind of a bummer for Bivold that they announced the nerfs to the Hydra
Mhm.
after they'd announced Bivold, so he didn't
Oh,
get the hype that he deserved. But
yeah,
he brings so much provoking to your team that he can lock
true.
down that head of decay just by himself. 100% chance on provoke on his A2, and then he's got a 50-50 to provoke on his A1. And then he also brings you just a lot of healing. Like he heals off his A1, his A3 does a nice heal. He brings leech on his A2. Like you were
Hmm.
saying, similarly to Archbishop Pinthroy,
Okay.
with a good team. I've seen Bivol teams where Bivol just solo heals the whole team. Like it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
especially when he's boosted up by like Inquisitor Shemael. You can have
Right.
Bivold in the lead, and he just keeps churning out heals, churning out provokes, and it
That's
makes
cool.
for actually a very easy run. Um, not so important right now, where the Head of Decay is not in the starting rotation, and you
Yeah.
might not see him. But when Head of Decay is in there, Bivold becomes very, very good.
Yeah, for sure. He's one of those champions, you're right. Like initially I was like, this seems really good, but I don't know where I'd
Mm.
use him. And then the Hydra nerfs were just at a bad time to
Yeah.
get the hype going on him. I'm gonna have to remember that one. That was an excellent choice. All right, so up next is gonna be Barbarians, and man, I'm so pumped about this one. One of the least valued champions in the entire game, I feel like, is O Pardon. And I think that it's
Ah.
because everybody wants him to be a skinwalker, right? But
Yeah.
besides that, I think that his kit is so super cool. His A1, you know, he can just boost his turn meter, whatever. But his
Mm,
A2 has the heal and the trigger on the continuous heals. So if you're
mhm.
pairing him with somebody who does continuous heals, he can really just take you from no health up to full health really quickly.
Yep.
And then you know removing the block buffs and the heal reduction, not that important. But the two continuous heal buffs, and then removing a random debuff. I fully maxed this guy, booked him, everything, and I've used him a number of times in Hydra. And even though his passive is only 5% on the continuous heals, it really stacks up. So if you
Mhm.
have somebody who's placing continuous heals regularly, you're actually going to get a lot of turn meter boost for him. So I think you were not expecting that one, huh?
No, no, I wasn't. I wasn't. I was expecting you to go for Elder Scarg actually
Elder
when you were building up
Scarg.
to it.
No,
Yeah.
interesting. Why Elder Scarg?
Well, Elder Scarg, so he does a few things that are really good. Number one is A2. If you've got 3 debuffs or buffs on the enemy, does extra hits, and then he does an AoE HP burn, and also steals buffs from the target. But effectively, it's a 3-turn cooldown AoE HP burn, and I believe it will trigger even through Poison Cloud. Haven't tested that, but I
Okay.
think it should. But then the other thing that he does is it's quite spicy, but you bring him in on his A1, right? It's got 2 different effects, but the one that we care about is the 30% increased crit rate if he doesn't crit. So you build him with literally 0 extra crit rate
Okay.
so that you get that extra increased crit rate buff as much as possible. And because nobody else really applies increased crit rate, you
Yeah.
can build him to be a mischief tank. So he comes
Interesting.
in and he can basically tank head of mischief and also provide AoE HP burn, which is a pretty cool thing to do. And then he can give himself increased defense and do nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing A3 works, but he can give himself increased defense for 3 turns if you need that extra buff as well.
Yeah.
Um, but he's a spicy pick for a mischief tank that not many
Absolutely.
people use, but pretty cool though.
No, that's an excellent suggestion. I'm just curious here because his A2 reads attacks one enemy 3 times and then extra
Mm.
hits on that target. Where do we get the AoE HP burn from?
Places HP burn debuff for 2 turns and True Fear on all enemies if this attack places all 3 extra hits. So the True
I
Fear obviously
completely
doesn't work.
misread that. Yeah, I completely
Yeah,
misread that. So maybe that's one reason why he's underrated because we don't think
yeah,
of him as an AoE HP burn champion.
yeah. Because
Huh.
he needs the setup to do it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's not that good for Spider and stuff like that,
Right,
but
right.
very good for Hydra where you've got so many champions. It's just kind of
Yeah,
weird because half of his kit does nothing. It's all against legendary champions, so
right.
it does nothing. But yeah, he's still good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. For me, I don't really have anybody else here. I'm interested
Mm.
in trying Farrakhan the Fat, but I don't have any experience with him. Is there anybody else who you want to call out from Barbarians?
I think the big one that I definitely want to do more on at some point is definitely Valkyrie. I think that Valkyrie is like genuinely S tier for Hydra.
Mm-hmm.
I think she definitely flew a bit under the radar, at least when Hydra first came out, because we didn't really have mischief tanking strategies and stuff like that really
Right.
built up. And if he ever steals counterattack, it's literally the
Oh,
worst thing mischief can steal.
game
Because then he
over.
starts getting he starts counterattacking, stealing more buffs, and you completely fall apart.
Yeah.
But her shield is so powerful, and it's a 3-turn duration shield.
Yeah.
So I've seen some kind of spicy teams where like you really have almost no healing at all, no reviving, and the shield is so strong that she can keep people stable throughout the whole thing and just counterattacking
Yeah.
and healing them that and just overpowering them with damage from a
Yeah.
counterattack. So definitely
She's yeah,
a
she's
really a
definitely
big
one that I
champion.
want to
Yeah.
try for sure. And I am one of those people who I'll admit I got absolutely wrecked when Hydra first came out because I tried her in there and
Oh
got all
yeah.
those counterattacks stolen and it was lights
Hmm.
out. I don't have any mischief tanks that I really like
Mm.
yet on my account. So that's
Yeah.
my my current thing that I'm trying to work towards, like who do I like as a mischief tank? So yeah, I'm interested to hear your
Hmm.
opinions on that because I'd love to start using Valkyrie
Yeah.
on my account for sure. Well, let's hop on over to Ogryn Tribes. Um, I am gonna start us off here because I am
Hmm.
certain that I have a spicy pick that will shock you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not sure that any content creator has ever done a video on this champion besides me, and that
Mm.
is Grunch Killjoy. Have you ever thought about
Interesting.
this guy for Hydra?
I've heard it mentioned, but I actually don't even have him. I never rolled
Really?
him, so I've never used him. Yeah, I know. Go on.
So
He does
when
bomb
Opa,
stuff, right?
what is it? Yes,
Is
bombs. Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Grunch is a super unique kit, okay?
Mm,
And he pairs so well with Opardin. So when Opardin
okay.
first came out, yes, he does have this A2 that deals bombs, and like you can throw some random attack percentage stuff on him in the substats, but it's the A3 that's really powerful. Remove all debuff from all allies, then places one continuous heal buff for 1 turn on each ally for every debuff they've removed. So you're gonna fill up your buff bar with continuous heals, and
Yeah.
when you have Opardin in the team, it just skyrockets your turn meter. Opardin can trigger all of those continuous heals. And it is the craziest interaction I've ever recorded in a video. It is so crazy. And
I
then
must watch
his
that. I didn't see that.
yeah.
That's
And then his
crazy.
A1 has a block buffs as well. It's not a
Oh
100%
wow.
chance, but like if you have any other counter attacks or extra attacks, like that
Hmm.
block buffs can be really crucial. And then he has this little turn meter fill whenever a bomb detonates. So you're getting a little bit of extra damage from the bombs that he's going to place. And then
Yeah.
that, the continuous heal, obviously you want to do that right after all those poisons go up. And then you're going to be flooded with continuous heals. He's super fun.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
a really cool, really cool healer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. Nice.
So who do you got? Who do you got for Ogryn?
Okay, my spicy pick for Ogryn. I think this champion's awesome. It's War Mother.
War
Um,
Mother.
yeah, I actually
Everyone's
think she's
favorite.
nuts. I think she's nuts for Hydra, especially up to heart. Maybe not as much brutal or nightmare. That's where
Okay.
the max HP nukers get better, but like she is insane. Basically the way it works, her A2 puts out 2 bombs, double damage against bosses. This is by far the highest bomb damage multiplier of any bomb champion.
Right.
It does a ridiculous amount of damage. I think each bomb has something like an 8+ multiplier, something
Yeah,
like
it's
that
high.
attack. It's extremely high, so she does a ridiculous amount of damage, absolutely huge, and she hits hard as well on
True.
just her hits. She's got an AOE on her A3, um, and even decreased attack on her A1 is quite useful too. Just throw that
Oh
decreased
yeah.
attack single target on Wrath. and boom, you're off. But
Yeah.
I'm very interested. I did do a test run of her once, but I'd love to do another one with her in the lead with like
Mm-hmm.
Inquisitor Shemael to
Yeah.
just really race through those bombs. And I also the test I did was pre nerf,
Okay.
so the Head of Decay was still cleansing some of the bombs. She can
Oh.
detonate them with her A3, but it wasn't like super consistent.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do it again where you can guarantee that every bomb is going to go off. I
Mm-hmm.
think that her damage potential is actually insane. And people just don't
Interesting.
like her because she's really ugly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, for sure.
she's really good though. She's really good.
You know how
Uh,
much damage bombs do against the Hydra?
but they do the same damage that they do everywhere because bomb damage is just flat. It's not affected by anything. So Uh, off the top of my head, I feel like the bombs are doing about like 200,000 a pop or something like that, but I could be wrong.
So that's
Uh,
way more
quite a
than
bit.
poison or HP burn.
Yeah, because and that's why it's really so strong on normal and hard, especially like hard is probably where it matters more, where it's actually fairly difficult. But the max HP of the Hydra heads isn't very high. So the bombs, the burns and poisons don't scale up as much, and like Royal Guards and stuff, they don't
Yeah.
hit that hard on hard anymore.
Right.
But the direct damage does, and the bombs do,
Hmm.
and yeah, so it's a pretty fun one. Um,
Yeah, I'm was shocked by that one for sure.
yeah,
Let's see. Is there anybody else who I want to mention here? There's nobody else that I've really tried out that I
Hmm.
think is super good. Like there's some cool champions who I think might be good. Um
yeah,
like, you know, many different champions in this faction, I suppose, but
yeah.
anybody else who you want to mention here?
Like in terms of the really good champs, like YuGiOh, obviously,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Shamrock is really good as well. I use
Yeah.
Shamrock a lot. I don't have many of the good speed boosters, so I don't have a Sifi. I don't have Lady Kimmy, so I use Shamrock a lot. He's really nice for it.
Okay.
And I want to give a quick shout out. There's a dude called Clam Boss, and I've only remembered now we're looking at this stuff here. I never got around to checking out his video, but he apparently did a crazy run like months and months ago where he actually made an unkillable team for Hydra with Maneater. Now it was full auto and it needed really good champs and it was very
Huh.
stressful. But I just thought like this was, and again, this was pre Hydra nerf or
Yeah.
wherever they introduced it, where you can like redo your key. It
Yeah.
was like, so how stressful? Like
Yeah.
you got to be so brave.
I
This dude
agree.
was literally sitting there like whatever month one of Hydra, where everyone wanted to do as well as they could, and he
Uh-huh.
was like, "Yo, I'm going in. Everyone's at 1 HP, relying on these unkillable buffs. One mistake and the key is dead, and you
Right.
can't get it back." I was like, "That's pretty nuts." Yeah. So it's
Bold
called
moves.
clam boss, like in the sea, a clam
Sure.
boss.
Yeah, yeah. Never
Yeah.
heard of him. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right. Hopping over to Lizardman here. And
Mhm.
I have to say, I do not think that Lizardman is really well set up for
No,
Hydra.
it's pretty rough. Apart from like the obvious exception, it's
Yeah, I
pretty
don't
rough.
know. Maybe we should mention Skull Lord Vargal, but I feel
Yeah.
like people know
Uh,
about him now.
yeah, I think they're catching on, so
Yeah.
he's pretty
Um,
and obviously Krisk is the main
obviously.
exception,
Yeah, obviously
obviously.
Chris.
uh,
Do you think
yeah,
Venomage would work?
maybe. I mean, either way, her passive is good for staying
Mhm.
alive. I'm not sure. I guess like if you get Venom Age early in the game, you're gonna build her, and you should probably put her into your Hydra team as well.
Yeah. So maybe
But
as
it's
like an underrated early game Hydra champion, we could say.
yeah. The one I kind of like is Aox. I think Aox is kind of nice.
Okay.
Um, Aox got decreased attack and it's a place, so it's just a really consistent decrease attack.
Yeah.
For especially in like that early mid game to try get you past Head of Wrath. Got
Yeah.
a pretty good heal on his A2, and then the passive is particularly good where it will increase 2 random debuffs once
Oh
per
yeah.
hit when attacked. So that's quite good for whatever extending your HP burns, decrease
Yeah.
speed, decrease attack, like that important stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, for like getting into Hydra for the first time, he's really really nice for just upping that consistency and that safety of your runs.
Okay, cool. I guess
Hmm.
I will mention Skathix here. Just because I think, I do have a love for the cleansers, and he
Yeah.
does have a nice cleanse, block debuffs, shield. You definitely
Mhm.
want to make sure you have a mischief target though, because if
Yeah.
if the Hydra gets block debuffs, it's rough stuff until you get that off. But you can follow that up with his A2 with the
Mhm.
stealing one random buff. So if they only have one buff that was stolen, removing that is pretty good. And
Yep.
then the A1 decreased speed, even though it's a low chance. I think
Mhm.
Skathix is a great choice
Yep.
for some support in your builds as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So we want to wrap it up with Skinwalkers then.
Yes, let's do it. I'm excited. You were saying you got some fun picks for this one. I'm excited to
I
hear.
do have some fun picks for this one, but I'll let you start it out.
Okay. The one I think is pretty consistently underrated and is actually incredible, is Coronar.
Aha.
Void legendary. But basically his A1 is an AoE attack, and he can very consistently trigger counterattack every single time. Enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed, he counterattacks them every time. And guess what? They're like the most important debuffs pretty much for Hydra, apart from the
Yep.
block buffs as well.
Yep.
So he's going to be counterattacking constantly, constantly hitting with that A1, doing actually pretty solid damage himself. And War Master procs, if you want, you could put him in a taunting set, like a provoke set, and
Yeah.
he can start getting out some nice provokes against Head of Decay just with those counterattacks. He's got a guaranteed provoke in his A2. I think it's just great. AoE attack on his A3, decrease attack or decrease defense. This dude's super underrated.
He
Like,
is.
the amount of damage that he puts out is actually extremely high on top of the utility that he can bring whilst being really tanky.
Right.
So, yeah, he's a Void Legendary, so he doesn't get talked about too much,
I
but
know.
he's insane. I think MtgJedi did some videos with Coronar for Hydra, and he's really, really impressive. So,
Yeah, he's one of the champions that I actually love using in Hydra. So,
nice, nice.
yeah, he's great. Manaya is my number one most wanted champion on my account, actually, to
I
pair
was
with
gonna
him.
ask.
Yeah, I do not have her. But
Ah.
do you think he can be a mischief tank with his A2? The block
Hmm.
debuffs increase defense on himself, or do you think that's not consistent enough?
I think it's pretty consistent. Yeah, I think he could be a good option. I haven't tested it out. And I suppose, like, even if you didn't build him for damage necessarily,
Hmm.
even if he just has War Master, yeah, he could probably do it. It's an interesting one because it's like, do you build him for damage? Do you build him to in a provoke set? Do you build him as a mischief tank?
Yeah.
I think he could probably do all of those really well. I think he probably would be really good as a mischief tank, actually. Yeah, I
Okay,
think it
because
would
I
work.
love him, so maybe he's the
Mm.
mischief tank that I've been missing.
He could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, he could be really good.
Yeah. Well, I just want to mention, like, I'm not going to say Leo is underrated or anything, but I think that, bringing in your arena nuker as your
Mm.
primary damage dealer 100% on normal and sometimes on hard, depending on your team, I think that can just be a really easy strategy. So I kind of want to just plug that in here while we're chatting about Hydra. But my
Yeah.
underrated champion is going to be Norog. And
Ah.
I really have used this champion a lot in
Mhm.
Hydra. And, before I got Duchess, I didn't really have survivability on some of like the more difficult Hydra levels. And so he does have a passive similar to her, where he's going to
Mhm.
decrease that damage to your team. Um, and of course the immune to stun, freeze, and sleep. Not really that much going to come into play here, but that's great for other content. And then of course he's another AOE block buffs champion, and it's a 3-turn cooldown. So
Yeah.
you're going to cycle through that regularly as long as you have, over that 200 speed that's necessary. And he's got pretty decent multipliers. I
Mhm.
think I think people just don't really consider him when they're thinking about Hydra, and so if you need somebody for these kind of roles, I think he's a great choice.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, a really cool way to buff Norog would be, without going too crazy, it'd be so cool if his A1 did a double hit if they didn't have buffs on. And
Yeah,
then
for
he'd be
sure.
like nuts. Like, could
Hmm.
you imagine just starts double hitting, like decapitated heads. Like you
Yeah.
said, the dude hits hard,
Yeah.
and I think that'd be a fun synergy with his block buffs too. It would work cool. Yeah,
Yeah, for
it's a really
sure.
nice passive.
Yeah,
Really, really
yeah,
nice.
absolutely.
Does it work against like poisons and stuff too from blight? I presume it does, but I don't know.
What do you mean?
Like he decreases all the damage that allies take by 15%.
I didn't test that thoroughly
Yeah.
enough to have a good answer there, so
Yeah.
I don't want to
Okay.
say that for sure. But if you're gonna use
Fair.
him, make sure you put him in the lead though, so you decrease the damage to everyone behind him.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah, I
Oh, that's
believe so. Because same thing with
Hmm.
Duchess, she has to be in the lead as well.
All right.
So
I
I
didn't know that
believe it
either.
works the same way. If I'm
Wow.
wrong, like let us know in the comments below. Anybody else you want to talk about here in Skinwalkers?
Um, Nothing that I'm too confident about. I need to do a video on
Mm-hmm.
Cleopteryx at some
Yeah.
point. I think she's got potential to be a mischief tank as well in a weird sort of
Ooh,
way, where
interesting.
she's super squishy, but she gives herself so many buffs
Yeah.
that's the problem with it. Like I remember getting asked about it before. It was like, can I bring in Cleopteryx as my nuker for Hydra? And I said, obviously no, you can't, because she's gonna give herself all these buffs, and then she's not gonna have enough resistance. She's gonna get
Yeah.
them stolen. But seeing as one of the buffs is increased crit rate, it does make building her to do damage much more forgiving.
Yeah.
So you can build her with that high resistance, and I mean, she's got 2 AoE attack, she's got weaken, and the fun thing is she gets a 3-turn AoE hex.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nifty. So I think she's got some cool potential there as a mischief tank that then also lets you kill mischief really fast because she hexes him.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. So
that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I built it up on the test server, and then I ran out of time to actually try her out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she's on the list of things to look into, which would be kind of cool because she's a login champion, albeit very far into the game.
Sure. Sure.
It'd be nice if she had that niche as well.
Right. Right. Unfortunately, I don't think any of the epics really stand out as useful for Hydra.
No,
But
like
I will tell
faction
you,
for epics.
if you're frustrated with being cleansed, War Chief is gonna lock that head down.
Yep.
I don't think he's like the best champion ever or anything, but I have used him before, and you know, like as soon as they were like, you can provoke this head, I was like, okay, well, I'm never getting cleansed again, and I threw him in my team. But you don't actually need a dedicated provoke champion. You can get away with, you know, provoke in someone's kit who's helpful in other ways, like some other champions we've talked about today. But he's definitely usable. He's definitely usable. I wish his passive worked more like Brogni or Geo. It just does not seem like his passive does literally anything. You know?
Yeah.
So I wish they would
It's one of
change
those
the way
things
that's
that
coded.
it's a nightmare in Doom Tower Hard.
Yeah.
Or just even Doom Tower normal is a nightmare. But when he's on your side, it does nothing.
Does nothing. Does nothing.
So yeah, that'd be cool though. I do like his A2. It's just like, you know what? I've got a 3-turn provoke on a 2-turn cooldown when it's booked, just to really rub it in. In Head of Decay's face.
Exactly.
He works unbooked as well, so like you can throw him in no problem.
Yeah.
And also do Magma Dragon super easy too. He's a nice champion for that weird niche.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up there. I think we've hit on some incredibly underrated champions for Hydra. We tried to mention some good picks, just solid picks in there mixed in as well. I'm super thankful that you were able to come on the channel for this collab. Anything else you want to say while we're heading out the door here?
No, just thanks so much for having me on. It's been great fun, and yeah, looking forward now to putting up part 2 on my channel as well, going through the remaining factions. I'm curious to see what crazy ideas we're going to come up with. I know I've got a couple of somewhat spicy ones here for the end, so I'm curious to see what you have too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're gonna head over there and record part 2 over on Nub's channel. Make sure, I don't think that we actually share a lot of subscribers, so if you have not seen his content, I'm being serious. He's one of my favorite content creators. I watch your content all the time, to be honest with you. And so make sure that you click the link there. I'll put it in a pinned comment. Head over there, subscribe to his channel. He puts out great content, as much or more as I do. So make sure you're subscribed to him, and we will see you guys in the next video.